It is so warm today, it's not natural. I live in the north of England. Winter is meant to be coming. Also, I just got my hair done and look how purple it is. Today I'm going to be talking about a book that I literally finished only a few hours ago, but it was so good that I just had to talk about it right now, and that is The Land of Stories, A Grimm Warning by Colfer. This is the third book in the Land of Stories series, and can we take a minute to talk about the fact that this is the first hardback in the series, and when you take this cover off it looks like your regular boring hardback, but then you open it and wow, look how pretty that is. Like I said, this is the third book in this series, and this is middle grade fiction, which for us UK peoples is 9 to 12. So a quick overview if you haven't read this series at all and you're kind of interested. The first book follows Alex and Connor, which are these two kids on the front here, and they get given a book called The Land of Stories, and through a series of events they end up going inside the fairy tale book, and they find out that their lives and their families' history is linked to this fairy tale world. I will hold my hand up and say that the reason I started reading Colfer's books is because I know him from Glee, and when I started reading his books, I started with Struck by Lightning. I didn't actually expect him to be that good a writer, and I feel really bad for making that assumption, but that tends to be a thing when celebrities start writing books. But I was just blown away by how like talented he is, not just in like the world building and like the characters and the stories he creates, but literally just the writing in general is just so well put together that as a writer myself I'm just so jealous. So unlike the first two books, this one was very slow moving. It was about 160 pages when you kind of got a real idea of where the story was going. After what happened in The Enchantress Returns, which is the second book, Alex and Connor were put on two separate paths. Connor stayed in the real world as we know it, whereas Alex had to go to the fairy tale world because she was set to be the next fairy godmother. So this book switched between Alex and Connor because obviously they weren't in the same place, and that worked very well considering a lot of books that I've read which has that kind of format. It feels like it's too back and forward, but this one didn't feel that at all. It felt like you'd had enough time following what was going on with Alex for it to then switch back to Connor. So the planning worked out very well in this book. So basically what sets things into motion in this book is that 3 stories by the brothers Grimm have been unveiled in this time capsule thing that said 200 years later it was to be opened. And these stories that Connor went to see at this German university revealed that when the 200 years was up, something very bad was going to happen in this fairy tale world. So Connor and his friend go off trying to basically crack the code in this stories to find out what the bad thing is that's going to happen, so that he can then find a way to get over to the fairy tale world and warn everyone that something bad is going to happen. But what could that bad thing be? If you haven't read the book and you don't want to know what the bad thing is, then stop reading now because this ends the spoiler-free section. So while all this stuff is going off with Connor, Alex is in the process of learning to be the next fairy godmother when her grandma eventually dies and the role is passed on to her, and she goes to the happily ever after assembly and finds out she's going to be put through a series of tests to obviously deem whether she's worthy for the role. And this bit seemed really kind of pointless and redundant to me because it's revealed that she's already done the tests without being aware of doing the test, because throughout the week she'd like, they'd been like secretly testing her so that, you know, she wouldn't like try to play up for it if she knew like, oh right, now I'm in a test and stuff. And that just, I liked the idea of it, but it was something that they didn't need to have this whole big build up to, you're gonna have to do these tests, you know, we can't just give you this role. And then the last one was like the test of heart or something, where she had to basically say why she felt she should be on the assembly, and she gave such like, in my opinion, a half-assed answer. She didn't really go for it. There was about 4 or 5 lines of dialogue, and then they were like, she's passed the test of heart, she can now join the assembly. Outside of that, you obviously have the stuff going on between Bo Peep and Red Riding Hood, the battle for her kingdom, which I found absolutely hilarious, because I think one of my favourite characters in this series has to be Red Riding Hood, because she's just so spoilt that it's so funny, especially when she finds out that little Bo Peep has turned her castle into an orphanage. One thing in this book that got me really excited was the idea of dragons appearing, and obviously it's hinted on the back of the book that dragons may be involved, so that had me super excited. And through trying to crack the whole code thing, Connor finds out that an army is planning to go through this portal and invade the land of stories and basically take over and rule, and he manages to get through the portal just a bit before them, if I remember rightly. Alex and everyone in the land of stories is just chilling at this party dedicated to her now that she's going to be the new fairy godmother and she's made it onto the assembly. And then they're like, wait, is that Connor? And Connor's just running along like, war, army, prepare yourselves. And that was all very well timed. The thing that I really enjoyed about this book, besides everything else, is just that everything was planned so well, like the timing for everything. I felt that when Connor finally did get reunited with Alex, it was at the right point in the story for that to happen. It couldn't have happened any earlier or any later, or it would have just not made much sense at all. And the ending to this book, this ended on a cliffhanger that just drives me insane, finding out that the masked man is actually Alex and Connor's dad. I don't know what to do with that information. Chris Colfer, why would you do that to me? So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought about all the twists and turns. Did you think that this book was slower than the other ones? Let me know what you think, and I'm just gonna go and lay down in a dark corner clutching this book and crying.